Exercise 2. In this exercise you're going to learn several procedures which you will have to use with a lot of your own photographs. They're basic procedures coming straight out of the darkroom and are things that are very common. You're going to learn how to crop the picture, in other words, how to get just what you want in the final image. You're also going to learn how to adjust the contrast. You're going to learn how to correct small flaws in the image. And you'll learn a little bit about dodging and burning. Now you'll also learn one thing which is more specific to the computer. This has to do with when you scan a picture in and you don't scan it straight. So you'll also learn how to straighten up a picture. Okay, to begin with, we're going to open the picture we're going to use in this exercise. Remember, you have to open it in Photoshop. So we're going to open, click on that. We're going to go to the Photoshop file, to Exercise 2, and we're going to open the picture Dadson. Okay, this is a picture that was taken in the park. You scanned it into the computer from another print, and now you want to do a little bit of repairing and fixing of it. You'll notice it has been scanned in crooked. So the first thing we're going to do is straighten the picture up and get it turned right. Over on the side here, you notice the tools. This is the cropping tool. Looks like these two sort of L's or squares put together. I'm going to use that to do the straightening. Now, click on that tool, bring it over here. We're going to go around the edges here. Now, when you go outside, you'll notice the arrow here turns into a sort of double-headed curved arrow. That means you can now rotate this box. So we're going to turn it. And we're going to line it up with the edges of this picture. Okay, not quite. So we'll line it up with all of the edges. Then we double click inside. That straightens it up. Still got a little bit down here which we'll get rid of. Now we've got to turn it over. It's still on its side, so we're going to go up here to Image, go down to Rotate the Image Rotate, and we're going to turn it 90 degrees clockwise. Okay, so now we have the picture the way it should be. We're now going to go in and actually crop the picture down to what we want in the final image. In other words, we're going to get rid of what we consider wasted space around here. So I'm going to go in. Again, we're going to put in the cropping box. You'll notice the area that will be left is normal. The area that we cut out is dark. We can go in now and adjust the sides. You can pull on any of these boxes between the lines. It'll move just that line. If you go to a corner, it'll move 2 lines. So we're now going to crop it into just what we want. And we're also going to make sure we get rid of that black there at the bottom. Then when we've got what we want, double click again, get you the image. Turn this down and get it onto the screen. Under View, you can go in and you get to choose how you want to look at the picture. I'm just going to go in and call Fit to Screen, so that'll bring it up to the whole screen. Alright, now this image right now doesn't look too bad, but we can go in and do a little bit of fixing into the contrast of the image. Now you're going to be tempted when you go into here, when you go into Image and into the tools, to simply go straight into brightness and contrast. Don't. This is used for extreme cases, The brightness and contrast, when you adjust that, is actually going to get rid of middle grays by forcing a bigger separation in the picture. You don't want to do that. You don't want to lose detail unless you have to. So what we're going to do is go into levels. Now, if this is a color picture, this will be RGB. Because it's black and white, this is gray. But this the top line, when you go into the graph, lets you adjust black and white. What you're going to do to begin with, you're going to move these little end selection pieces to the edges of the histogram. That'll give you your darkness. Now what you're going to do is go into the middle one, the gray, and do the fine adjusting on it. So we can begin to pull it in. And again, you can move a little more onto these ends if you need to. But you can now go in and adjust the picture to get just what you want. This will usually fix any contrast problems you've got. Also, when you're doing a color picture, if you go in first of all and you simply move the selectors to the ends of the histograms on each of the different color channels, that will usually fix the color as well. Now that you've got what you want here, you just click OK. And you can see the changes you've made. Go back to what it was and what you've got now. The history over here, by the way, will record multiple steps of things that you've done. Depends how many have been set into it. With our school computers, it's set for 25 steps. If you have your own computers, you can set for more or less. The idea here is, if you go down, you're doing different actions, you decide you didn't like them, you can just remove them by going back up however many steps you want. If you just want to go one step, then you can go to Edit and Undo, and it will undo the one step. History, you can undo multiple steps. Next problem we're going to deal with here, we're going to get rid of some of the flaws in this picture. I happen to know there are flaws in this picture because I put them in. Okay, so what we're going to get, we're going to enlarge some of the areas here. You'll notice here we've got a dust piece that's got into it. Some little spots here, little pinholes, sorts of things that we might want to correct. There are two ways to do it. One is with the cloning stamp. Now the cloning stamp will actually copy part of the picture and move it over. So if we've got an area which is pretty much the same color as what we're trying to get rid of, then this works real well. It also works well if we're trying to preserve lines. Now if we've got an area here where we really can't match the colors, then it's easier to use the healing stamp. This healing stamp looks like a band-aid. It's the healing brush tool, which we select. Going to get a brush, the smaller size here. This determines the size diameter. You can move it bigger, you can move it smaller. Hardness, that determines how hard the edges are. So we'll soften it down a bit. Spacing, I haven't fooled that much with it. Hasn't made that much difference. So don't worry at this point. Now that I've got what I want for the brush, I just have to pick an area which has the same texture. And ideally, it should be an area that is sort of similar in tone. Every time you have darker or lighter areas, the computer considers that a different texture. So we get sort of a similar tone here. Going to push down, this is a PC, so the Alt key. On the Mac, you'd push the Option key. Going to click the mouse to pick up the color there, the texture. Then we're going to go up here, and we're just going to paint it out. Now, the unique thing with this is it doesn't actually paint in part of the picture. It covers that area and it pulls in the color from around the edges to blend it in. Same thing down here. We'll do that. Get rid of the spot. Now, when I hold down the Shift key, you'll notice this little hand appears. It lets me move the picture over. So I can now begin to look for other areas and spots. Okay, got a little one right there. We'll just get rid of those. And then these little dust spots we're going to get rid of over here. Paint them out. Eliminate them. So this is how you can go in and actually repair small flaws in the image. Then we'll start down, go back across the other way. Okay, one area where the healing stamp really doesn't work very well is where you need to maintain these lines. Because it's pulling in the color from all around, it will tend to destroy the lines. So when you have to maintain one of these, it's often easier to use the cloning stamp, which is actually going to copy part of the picture and just move it. Okay, we'll continue on across. Not too bad. Most of these are things you could actually ignore. Into there. Okay, now here we have a different problem. You'll notice we want to get rid of that, but this is a very different texture. So move in, press down the Alt or the Option key, click the mouse to pick up the new texture, and then paint it in. So that we actually get the same sort of texture through there. Continue on across. So we're looking for any problems. On down, and you just keep doing this. Okay, we have another spot here, but again, different texture. So again, Alt or Option key, pick up the new texture, and use it. And continue on across, pick up new texture. Okay, I think we're at the bottom. Hit View, Fit on Screen again. So now we can see the whole image. Okay, the next thing we're going to learn is how to do a little bit of dodging and burning in this image. So we've done cropping, we've straightened the picture, we've gotten rid of damaged or flawed areas. Dodging and burning are two very old techniques come from the darkroom. Dodging literally means you want to lighten an area of the picture. Burning means you want to darken it down. Now, the dodging and burning tools are right here. And click on the corner here so you can see them. Dodging, burning. Sponge tool, we're not going to use that much yet. These tools, the images, the little icons here, make perfect sense if you come from the darkroom background. If you haven't got a darkroom background, they make no sense at all. The dodging tool, this looks like a little black lollipop. That's because in the darkroom, the dodging tool consisted of a wire, usually something like a coat hanger, with a piece of cardboard that was cut out and fit on the end. You would then move in over the picture and shade part of the area while the exposure was going on, so it actually got exposed less and would be lighter. The burn tool, this looks like a hand with the fingers together. That's because when you were doing it in the darkroom, you would use your hands to create a hole, which you could then go over the picture, and you would expose an area just a little bit longer than the rest of the picture, so it would be darker. Okay, in this case, we're going to do a little bit of dodging and burning. We'll start off with the dodge tool. You'll notice way too big. So let's go in again and select. Now you'll notice in this version, you select from lots of different brushes. In the newest versions, you've got basically a couple of hard or soft brushes, and then you've got these different texture brushes. And you change size by simply selecting whether you want a hard or a soft brush, and then you move the master diameter switch. I've been using that for a number of years. I rather like it. You don't have much choice if you got the new ones. You just have to change the size here. So you get a size you want. Move into it. Now, the exposure up here is very important. You need to have it low because you don't want sudden changes. Dodging and burning, you want very subtle, very slow changes so that you can control them. Also, the area over here, shadows, midtones, or highlights, you can set it so it will only change the darkest areas, the lightest areas, or the middle areas. Start off usually with midtones. For dodging and burning, I want you just to try it out to see what it does. This is not something that's real critical in this picture, but just try it out a little bit. Also, don't expect to be real good at this the first time. It takes a lot of practice. So let's say I want to darken the face here just a little. We'll go in and we'll slowly move over it. And each time you let go of the mouse is one pass. So you can go over and you can slowly begin darkening these areas in. Do it very, very slowly. If it's going way too slow, then you may want to go in and increase the exposure a little. But, well, let's show you. If you go up to exposure, say about 50%, then you'll begin to really notice it lightening things up too much. So we don't want to do that. We just want to go very, very slowly. Let's get rid of that last step. So let's see. We go up before we started doing the dodging, and you can see how much of a change it's made. In fact, too much there. So that's what dodging does. It's going to slowly lighten the area. Now burning is going to darken the area. Way too big there. Two. Okay, so burning is going to darken areas down again. Let's say you've got real wide areas that you don't want to be glaring, pulling the eye in. You want to change them. In this case, that's a little too big on the brush. Say I want to burn in the back of the diaper. You're going to have a problem when you do that. Let's see, we'll move that way up, right? So you're going to really burn it in. But as you notice, when I do that, nothing is happening. Now, let's say if I did it on the sock down here, you'll notice it starts really darkening it in. Now, the difference in these two places, let's go back up there. This area is actually true white. There is nothing there that can be darkened. So if you really want to darken in a truly white area, you're going to have to take a couple of steps first. I'm going to go up here to this magic wand. Looks like a little wand with sparkles around it. This is a selection tool. I'm going to set it for about 15, and I'm going to go down into here and I'm going to click it in this white area. You'll notice that it now makes a sort of line of marching ants here. It has selected the white. I am going to now go up here to selection, and we're going to do a little bit of changing on this. Going down to feather. Now what feather does, feather is going to soften the edges here so you won't have a distinct edge between the area that's selected and the area that isn't selected. It'll form sort of a blend together. Not going to feather it too much. This is just 6 pixels, so it's very, very small, but it will sort of blend those areas in. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up here, I'm going to select the lightest gray. These are the color swatches up here. And I'm going to select the very lightest one, which it says is white. Maybe go a little bit there so we get 10% gray. And I am now going to put some color in there. So I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, I'm going to use the foreground color, which is the top one here. I'm going to put that in at, say, 20%. We'll click OK. Select, deselect. Now you're not going to see a lot of change here. That's because all we've done is add just a tiny bit of shading in there. But now when I go into burn, you'll notice we can begin to get some burning actually going on in here. So I can begin to darken things down. Now here's the problem with burning. Notice what's happening around these edges. Because I'm spilling over the edge, I'm also hitting these pixels, and they're also darkening. So burning you have to do very, very carefully. Let's go back up here. You usually want to go with a very small brush, very low exposures, down to at least around 15 to 10, and then work very, very slowly, controlling what you're doing, and you just begin slowly darkening these areas in. So just begin adding a little bit of tone to them. Now, if you begin to damage these areas along the edge, you may want to take the healing stamp, go in, select the color, and just use that along the edges so that you'll begin blending them together. And a little more burning. Okay, now over on this side, notice these two pieces at the bottom. These are the colors you can use in the image. They are traditionally black and white, but you can go over and you can pick any two colors to use. You can only use two at a time, but you can pick shades of gray, you can pick colors, put them into here. You do it by simply clicking on whichever ones you want. It'll put it on top. You can then reverse them, put a second one in. Now this image at this point is pretty much all you have to do. That's how you're doing it. You're just going to adjust the cropping, you're going to adjust the contrast, and you're going to try to get the best picture you can. Now for some of our students, when we took this picture, we didn't notice he was wearing the hated Jayhawk from Kansas. So a number of you may want to try your hand at getting rid of that Jayhawk. Easiest way, just going to use the healing stamp there. Going to pick up the tone in your sweater, and we're going to start painting it out. So we can actually go in here and correct his bad choice of a school. Get it in. Now that is something that Photoshop will allow you to do, which would be very hard to do actually in the darkroom. So there are a number of advantages that you can get into here. Also, if you're getting real picky, we've got a little bit of the post coming in down here, so we might also want to get rid of that. And that, we can go in here, pick up again into the white area, and paint it out. So there are a lot of corrections you can do after you have taken the picture. Go in and fix them as you would like. That's all there is to exercise 2. Finish it up, save it. Remember, going to go in here to do File, Save As, and save it to your own folder, giving it whatever name you would like, and you're ready to go on to exercise 3.